T. Clark here with the 2018 AP Computer Science A Free Response Question 1A. This question involves reasoning about a simulation of a frog hopping in a straight line. The frog attempts to hop to a goal within a specified number of hops. The simulation is encapsulated in the following frog simulation class. You'll write two of the methods in the class. So you're given the goal distance instance variable, which is an integer. We have the max hops allowed, which is also int. We have the constructor that sets them up and makes sure that they're both positive. We have hop distance, which we'll use. That'll give me basically a random distance of hops, in integer. And then we have to create the simulate, which returns true or false, depending on the conditions in part A. So part A states we need to write the simulate method. It simulates a frog attempting to hop in a straight line, starting at 0 with a maximum number of hops. So that's the instance variable I've set up in my replit on the right. Okay, the method will return true if the frog passes the goal or reaches the goal or passes it. Otherwise, it's false. So I have the hop distance I talked about earlier that returns an integer representing distance for each hop. The positive distance represents a move towards a goal, and negative distance represents a move away from the goal. So return distance may vary from call to call, basically random. Each time the frog hops, its position is adjusted by the value returned by the call to hop distance. So it'll keep hopping until one of these is true. So these are the conditions. The frog has reached the goal, or reached or passed the goal, so it's true. The frog has reached a negative position. So if it's ever negative, it's past the start on the wrong way, it's behind the start, basically, it's false. Or if the frog has taken the maximum number of hops and hasn't reached the goal, it's false. So what do I have? I have an example where I have the goal distance is 24 and the maximum hops is 5. So I have some examples. So if I hop or I simulate and I get a 5, a 7, a -2, an 8, and a 6, it ends up, the sum is going to be 24, and that's true. If I randomly get 6, 7, 6, 6, final position of the frog will be 25, and that's true. If I get 6, -6, 31, that's also true. It's close though, because it gets back to 0. 6 minus 6 is 0, but if it's negative, it's no good. Like we see in this example, 4, 2, -8, and it gets to -2 and then it stops. So I could have had more numbers afterwards, but once it hits a negative, it's false. Or if I go and I'm done, maximum number of hops is 5, so I get 5 numbers, and then the sum is less than 24 in this case, it's false. So I set it up in my replit with these instance variables and methods I can use. So on a completed method, the header says basically what we've already talked about. So over in my replit, I'm going to simulate. And first I need the starting position, or just a position, and it starts at 0. So it's going to simulate where the frog is currently. I'm going to loop through as many times as I'm allowed. So that's going to be starting at 0 and saying less than the instance variable max hops. So I set up my for loop like normal. Yeah, and every time I hop, I'm going to update my position by adding whatever I get from the hops distance method. So that's going to be 5, or then 7, and then -2, then 8, then 6. So each time I get that, I'm going to add to it. And the two conditions are if it's negative, if the position is less than 0, that means the frog went behind, and it's going to return false. The other condition is if the position reaches the goal. Greater than or equal to means it reached the goal distance. And again, the max hops and goal distance are those instance variables they give me in the simulation. Excuse me. So if I reach the goal, if the distance has been reached, I return true. And then if I'm done, if I reach all the hops, I reach those 5 hops, and I don't reach a distance, one of these isn't true. The third condition would be return false. I ran out of hops and I'm still not at the goal. So again, I set up my position, starting at 0, or does it say that? Start at 0. I loop through using the maximum hops. I add the hop distance, which is basically a random number from this method that works as it's supposed to. Add it to the hop, increment the position by that much, or maybe subtract if it's negative, but adding a negative is subtracting. If the position is ever negative, return false. And then if the position reaches the goal, I can return true. And then if I'm out of hops and I'm still not there, I return false. So that's the 2018 APCSA FRQ 1A.